The beam of Cole's flashlight swept over empty snow, the crunch of his boots echoing in the still night. Shadow, his black K9, had pulled ahead without warning, his nose to the ground, ignoring every command to heel. Cole's breath came in sharp clouds as he pushed after him, the darkness closing in on either side. Then, the dog stopped. His front paws rested on the edge of an old bridge, its wooden planks frosted white. He didn't look back, he just stared down into the shadows beneath. Cole approached cautiously, hand resting on his rifle, peering into the gloom. And that's when he saw her. A girl, no older than 8, curled up on the frozen ground below, knees to her chest, her coat thin and torn. She didn't move. Cole's first instinct was to drop to one knee and steady the rifle, but Shadow didn't give off the cues he would if there was an immediate threat. No growl, no tension in the tail, no forward lean that signaled a pending lunge. Instead, the K9's head was low, ears tilted toward the girl under the bridge like he'd been expecting to find her. Cole took a slow step forward, boots crunching on the thin crust of snow, the boards of the bridge creaking under his weight. His flashlight beam swept over the wooden supports, catching the flecks of frost clinging to them. The cold seeped up from the ground, biting through the layers of his uniform. The girl hadn't moved. Her knees were drawn tight to her chest, her chin resting on them, her arms wrapped around her shins. The oversized coat she wore was so worn that patches of stuffing showed at the seams, and her boots looked 2 sizes too big, loosely tied with fraying laces. Snowflakes settled in her hair, dark brown, tangled, matted in places, and her skin was pale in the washed-out light. Shadow shifted slightly, his tail giving one cautious sweep before going still again. Cole crouched low, angling the flashlight so it wasn't shining directly into her eyes. "Hey," he called softly, voice steady, "you all right?" No answer. Not even a twitch. Cole slid the rifle's sling higher onto his shoulder and moved to the edge of the bridge, leaning to get a better view. The drop wasn't far, maybe 5 feet to the frozen ground beneath. The girl was sitting in a shallow alcove between 2 thick support beams, as if the bridge itself had been her shelter from the wind. Shadow looked up at Cole, then back down at the girl, then back at Cole again, a silent exchange that carried an odd weight. Cole made his decision. "Stay," he murmured to Shadow, though he knew the dog wouldn't need the command. He lowered himself carefully over the edge, boots scraping the ice-covered beam before dropping into the snow below. The cold hit harder down here, the air more still but somehow sharper against his face. He stopped a few feet from her, keeping his voice low. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her eyes lifted, and for the first time Cole saw they were a deep, startling hazel, flecked with green. There was no fear in them, but no trust either. "My name's Cole," he said. "That's Shadow up there. He's a good dog." Her gaze flicked toward the bridge's edge where Shadow's black shape leaned over, watching. Then she pulled her knees tighter and looked away. Cole knelt slowly in the snow, wincing at the cold soaking through his pants. "You've been out here a while, haven't you?" Still no answer. Her breath made only the faintest fog in the air, a bad sign. She was cold enough that her body was slowing its effort to keep warm. Cole scanned her quickly for injuries. No obvious blood, but her left boot was sitting oddly, her foot angled outward in a way that suggested she hadn't moved it much. He reached for his radio. "Command, this is Alpha 3, he said quietly. "Got a juvenile, female, approximately 8 years old, under the East Bridge by Sector 24. She's unresponsive to questions but conscious. Request immediate med-evac." Static, then a clipped reply, "Copy, Alpha 3. ETA 20. Cole knew 20 minutes in this cold was dangerous. He needed to get her moving, or at least insulated. He pulled a thermal blanket from his pack, shaking it out. The sound made her flinch just slightly, the first real reaction. He slowed his movements, holding it out so she could see. "It's just a blanket. Warm. You can take it." She stared at it, then at him, like she was weighing something far beyond the decision to accept help. Shadow gave a short, quiet whine from above, and for some reason, that was what made her move. She loosened her arms from around her legs, just enough for Cole to wrap the blanket around her shoulders. The instant the heat started to trap against her body, her eyes closed briefly. She didn't thank him, didn't say anything, but she didn't resist either. Cole shifted to one side, giving her space but staying close enough to grab her if she tried to bolt. "Do you live near here?" he asked. "Nothing." "Are you hurt?" Still nothing. Cole sighed, glancing up at Shadow, who was watching with the patience of stone. "All right," Cole murmured, more to himself than her. "We'll do this the slow way." He eased closer. "We can stay here until the truck gets here, but it's warmer if we wait up top." This time she shook her head, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement. Cole studied her a moment. "You afraid of someone up there?" Her eyes flicked to his, sharp, deliberate, and that was all the answer he needed. "Open." Cole didn't press her. The flash in her eyes when he'd asked about danger told him enough. Pushing now would only drive her deeper into whatever wall she'd built. Instead, he shifted his weight and glanced toward the slope leading up to the road. The snow on the bank was shallow in places, deeper in others, and icy near the top where vehicle tracks had frozen solid. It wasn't an easy climb, but it was faster than waiting 20 minutes for evac in the cold. He pulled off one glove, letting his fingers feel the air temperature fully. The cold was sharp enough to sting instantly, dangerous for a kid already showing signs of hypothermia. Cole looked back at her. "I'm not leaving you down here," he said plainly. "So you can come up with me now, or I can carry you. Either way, we're getting you out from under this bridge." Her hazel eyes flicked up toward him again, reading him like she could tell if he was bluffing. He wasn't. Shadow gave a low chuff from above, shifting his paws on the snowy planks. The dog's breath fogged in the air, and his head kept turning, scanning the darkness beyond the bridge like he sensed more than cold out there. Cole noticed. "Shadow's nervous," he said, keeping his voice even. "That means we don't stay here." The girl's shoulders tightened under the blanket. Cole reached out a hand, palm up. "Come on." She hesitated. Her fingers, pale and trembling, clutched the blanket tighter. Then, without looking directly at him, she reached out and placed her hand in his. Her skin was like ice. Cole's grip was steady but gentle as he helped her to her feet. The moment she stood, she wavered, knees buckling slightly. Cole stepped closer, sliding an arm under her for balance. She didn't resist, which told him more about her condition than anything else. "You hurt?" he asked. A tiny shake of the head. But her left foot barely touched the ground. Cole glanced at her boot again, noting the stiffness in her ankle. "We'll take it slow." He guided her toward the slope, his flashlight beam bouncing over the snow. The incline was steeper than it looked from above. He went first, planting each boot solidly before helping her place hers. She slipped twice, the second time hard enough that he caught her against his side. Shadow backed away from the edge, allowing Cole to guide her up the final stretch. The dog's tail swept once across the boards before he turned, leading them toward the road. They'd only taken a few steps when Cole caught movement out of the corner of his eye, a dark shift against the snowbank across the road. He froze. Shadow froze. The girl seemed to feel it too, her hand tightened around the blanket. Cole's eyes scanned the darkness, but whatever he'd seen was gone, just the unbroken white of snow and the black shapes of trees. He kept his voice low. "Shadow, heel." The K9 moved closer, body angled between Cole and the girl, his gaze locked on the tree line. Cole adjusted his hold on her. "We're moving," he murmured. They crossed the road, boots crunching on the frozen ruts. The bridge was behind them now, but Cole's instincts prickled. Someone had been there, watching. The girl kept her eyes on the ground, her breath shallow. She said nothing, but every few steps she glanced toward the woods, the same direction Shadow was watching. They followed the curve of the road for another 50 yards before Cole spotted the faint glow of headlights ahead. Relief was immediate, but tempered by the fact that the light was too low and too dim to be military. "Great," Cole muttered under his breath. The vehicle wasn't moving fast, just creeping along the road toward them. Cole shifted the girl slightly behind him, his free hand moving toward his rifle. Shadow stood rigid, the fur along his neck lifting. The headlights dimmed as the vehicle slowed even more. Then, without warning, it cut its lights entirely. Cole's grip tightened. "Not good." The girl's voice came then, the first real words he'd heard from her. Soft, almost a whisper. "It's him." The way she said it made Cole's chest go cold in a way the wind never could. "Shadow," he said sharply. The dog stepped forward, muscles coiled. The dark shape of the vehicle came to a stop about 30 feet away. No engine rumble. Just stillness. Cole raised his voice slightly, enough to carry. "Identify yourself." Silence. Then the faint click of a door opening. Cole moved the girl fully behind him, his stance low and steady. Shadow advanced 3 paces, the growl in his throat low but carrying far. A man's silhouette stepped out from the vehicle, hands visible but empty. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "She's mine. You've got something that belongs to me." Cole's jaw tightened. "She's not going anywhere with you." The man's smile was audible in his reply. "We'll see about that." The silence stretched, broken only by the wind threading through the skeletal branches overhead. Cole's finger rested along the trigger guard, steady but ready. His other hand felt the slight tremor in the girl's shoulder as she gripped the edge of his vest from behind. Shadow's growl deepened, the kind that came from his chest, vibrating in the stillness. The man took another step forward, his boots crunching in the snow. The dim light from the distant moon caught enough of his face for Cole to see the sharp lines of it, the way his eyes didn't flinch from the dog's stare. "You've got no idea what you're stepping into, soldier," the man said. Cole kept his stance. "Enlighten me." The man's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "She's mine. Family." Cole glanced back at the girl. Her grip tightened, and she shook her head quickly, almost desperately. That told him all he needed to know. "She's under my protection now," Cole said evenly. "If you've got paperwork, a court order, anything, you can show it to command." The man chuckled, low and cold. "You think I bother with paper? Out here, things don't work like that." Shadow's ears flicked back for a moment, catching something in the distance, movement, maybe. Cole noticed. They weren't alone. He shifted his weight slightly, angling himself so he could keep both the man and the treeline in view. "Last warning," Cole said. "Step back. Turn around. Walk away." The man's expression hardened. "Or what?" Cole didn't answer. Shadow did. With a sharp bark that split the night, the dog surged forward 2 paces, teeth bared. The man froze, his hands rising slightly. "Easy, soldier. No need to sick your mud on me." "She's not going with you," Cole said again, voice firm as steel. For a moment, the man just stood there, weighing his options. Then, without another word, he stepped back toward the vehicle. But Cole's instinct screamed. From the corner of his vision, he caught movement in the treeline, a second figure, this one crouched low, moving toward the road. "Shadow, left flank." Cole barked. The K9 pivoted instantly, lunging toward the movement. A startled curse broke the night as the shadowy figure stumbled back, caught off guard by 80 pounds of trained muscle charging at full speed. Cole brought his rifle up, covering the treeline. "Who's out there?" No answer. Just the sound of retreating footsteps crunching through snow. The man by the vehicle swore under his breath, casting a glance toward the retreating figure. "You weren't supposed to spook him." Cole kept his rifle trained on him. "Truck's coming in 2 minutes," he lied. You can either leave now or wait for the rest of my unit. The man's jaw worked, and then he took a slow step back, then another, until he was at the open driver's door. His glare cut to the girl one last time before he slid inside. The engine turned over, headlights still off, and the vehicle rolled backward down the road until the darkness swallowed it whole. Cole kept his rifle up for another 20 seconds before lowering it. Shadow trotted back from the treeline, his breath heavy but his tail high. The girl hadn't moved from behind him. When Cole turned, her eyes were locked on the road where the car had vanished. "He's gone," Cole said quietly. Her gaze flicked to his, doubtful. "For now," she murmured, the second time she'd spoken. Cole crouched so he was eye level with her. "You know him?" She nodded once. "Who is he?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Doesn't matter. He'll come back." Cole wanted to press, but the sound of an approaching engine drew his attention. This time, the headlights were bright and steady, the military truck he'd been waiting for. He rose, keeping a hand lightly on her shoulder. "You're safe for tonight," he said, hoping the certainty in his voice would carry more weight than the doubts in hers. The truck pulled up beside them, brakes squealing softly in the cold. The passenger door swung open, and a medic hopped down, his breath puffing white. "Cole," the medic greeted, giving him a quick once-over before focusing on the girl. "This her?" "Yeah. Found her under the bridge. Possible ankle injury, hypothermia risk. And she's got someone out here looking for her, someone who isn't family." The medic's eyes narrowed but he nodded, pulling a blanket from his kit. "Let's get her inside." The girl hesitated when Cole guided her toward the truck. Her eyes went to Shadow, then back to him. "He's coming too, right?" Cole smiled faintly. "He doesn't go anywhere without me." That earned him the smallest flicker of a smile before she climbed into the truck's warmth. Shadow hopped up after her, settling on the floor by her feet like it was the most natural thing in the world. Cole climbed in last, pulling the door shut against the cold. The truck lurched forward, carrying them away from the bridge and whatever shadows still lingered there. But as Cole watched the snow-covered road roll past, he couldn't shake the thought the man would try again. And next time, he wouldn't wait in the open. The truck's heater roared, filling the cab with the dry warmth of recycled air. The girl sat wedged between Shadow and the medic, the silver thermal blanket still wrapped tightly around her shoulders. Every so often, her eyes darted to the window, scanning the darkness beyond the glass as if she expected the man's vehicle to appear out of nowhere. Cole sat opposite her, bracing against the sway of the truck as it rumbled over the uneven road. His rifle rested across his lap, but his mind was running a different track entirely. Whoever that man was, he wasn't working alone. The second figure in the treeline proved it, and that meant this wasn't a one-off encounter. The medic glanced at Cole. "You want me to start running vitals now, or wait till we're at base?" Cole shook his head slightly. "Wait till we're inside. Keep her calm for now." The medic nodded, leaning back in his seat. Shadow, as if sensing the tension, pressed closer to the girl. She rested one small hand on the dog's back, fingers tangling in his thick fur. Cole caught that. It was the first sign of trust she'd shown since he'd found her. After 20 minutes, the truck pulled into the small forward operating base, a cluster of prefab buildings surrounded by high fencing topped with concertina wire. The headlights swept over the gatehouse, and the guards stepped out, checking IDs before waving them through. The moment the truck stopped, Cole was out the door, scanning the perimeter. The air here was still bitingly cold, but the sightlines were better. He wanted to be sure no uninvited guests had followed them in. The medic helped the girl down from the truck, Shadow immediately circling back to flank her. Cole motioned them toward the nearest building, a heated intake room with a long bench, shelves of blankets, and a small table with basic medical supplies. Once inside, the medic crouched in front of her. "I'm just going to check you out, all right? Won't take long." She didn't answer, but she didn't pull away when he took her wrist to check her pulse. Cole stayed close, leaning against the wall with his arms folded, watching her reactions. Pulse is slow, but not dangerously so, the medic murmured. Skin temp's low. She needs fluids, warmth, and rest. Cole nodded. And that ankle? The medic gently pulled off her left boot. She hissed at the movement, her first real sign of discomfort. Swelling, the medic confirmed. Probably a sprain. I'll wrap it. As he worked, Cole squatted beside Shadow. The K9's gaze never left the girl, his ears tilting toward her every small movement. Cole ran a hand down the dog's back, grounding both of them. When the medic finished, he stood and addressed Cole quietly. You want her in the infirmary or somewhere more private? Private, Cole said without hesitation. The last thing she needed was strangers coming and going all night. They moved her to one of the smaller dorm rooms, a single bed, a dresser, and a narrow window that looked out over the snow-covered yard. Cole made sure the blinds were drawn before turning back to her. You'll be safe here, he said. 2 guards outside the building, and Shadow's staying with you. Her eyes flicked to him. And you? I'll be close, he promised. She hesitated, then said something that caught him off guard. You believe me, don't you? Cole's brow furrowed. About what? That he's not going to stop. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of certainty. I believe you, Cole said simply. Her gaze softened for the first time, but only for a moment. He's not after me because of me, she murmured. It's something else. Cole crouched to meet her eyes. Then tell me what it is. She shook her head quickly. Not yet. Cole didn't push. Instead, he reached into his pocket and set a small, battered tin on the nightstand. Tea. Medic keeps it for kids who can't sleep. It's not much, but it's warm. She stared at it for a moment before nodding faintly. Shadow settled at the foot of the bed as Cole straightened. I'm going to check in with command. You lock this door behind me. Her hand tightened around the blanket. You'll come back? I'll be back, Cole said, and meant it. Outside, the hallway was dim and quiet. Cole made his way to the comms room, where the duty officer looked up from his desk. Heard you had some trouble on the road. Cole kept his voice even. Trouble's not over. I need vehicle patrols doubled on the east approach and night vision posted on the north tree line. The guy's organized, not just some drifter. The officer nodded, already making notes. Description? Cole gave it, along with the make and model of the vehicle. The officer frowned. That matches a report from 2 weeks ago, same guy seen near the river settlement, asking questions about a missing kid. Same kid, Cole said grimly. I'd bet on it. Before the officer could reply, a static-laced voice crackled over the intercom. Alpha 3, report to Dorm 3. Urgent. Cole was already moving, Shadow padding at his side. He hit the door in less than 30 seconds, heart pounding. The girl was standing in the middle of the room, barefoot, pointing at the window. He was out there, she said, voice shaking. Watching. Cole crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling the blinds aside just enough to see out without exposing himself. The cold air bit at the glass, frost clinging to the edges. The yard beyond was still, no movement, no figure, just a pale wash of moonlight on snow. You're sure? He asked, not taking his eyes from the outside. Her voice was steady now, even if her hands weren't. I saw his face. Shadow's muscles were coiled tight, his body angled toward the window like he could will himself through it. The low rumble in his chest hadn't stopped since Cole entered. Cole lowered the blinds and turned to her. Stay here. No, she said quickly, stepping toward him. If he's here. That's exactly why you stay inside, Cole cut in. Shadow stays with you. Door locked. Her jaw set, but she didn't argue further. Cole backed toward the door, rifle in hand, and slipped into the hall. The two guards outside the building straightened at his approach. Perimeter check. North side first, Cole ordered. They moved quickly, boots crunching in the snow. The base was quiet, too quiet. The hum of the generator was the only constant sound, muffled under layers of snow and distance. Cole kept scanning, eyes adjusting to the low light. When they reached the north fence, he saw it. Tracks fresh. They led from the tree line to the fence line, stopping short of the barrier. Whoever had been here knew the layout, knew where the guards rotated. Cole crouched, running gloved fingers over the prints. The snow was still compacted, edges crisp. 10 minutes old at most. Eyes up, he said quietly, scanning the dark tree line. One of the guards raised his rifle. Think he's still out there? Cole's gaze lingered on the shadows between the trees. If he's smart, he's already gone. But his gut said otherwise. A crack echoed through the cold, not loud, but sharp enough to make everyone's heads turn. A branch, snapping under weight. Cole raised his hand, signaling for silence. They listened. The wind carried faint rustling, movement that was deliberate, measured. North Tower, Cole called into his radio, keeping his voice low. Sweep the tree line, east to west, thermal scan. A few seconds later, the reply came. Got movement, 50 meters out. One heat signature. Stationary now. Cole exhaled slowly. Stationary means he's watching. Orders, the tower operator asked. Hold your fire. Keep eyes on him, Cole said. The last thing he wanted was to spook the man into disappearing deeper into the woods. He needed to know how close he was willing to get, and why. Cole turned to the guards. One of you stays here. The other circles wide east. If he moves, I want to box him in. They split without a word. Cole stayed put, eyes on the tree line, every muscle wound tight. Shadow wasn't with him, but he could almost hear the dog's growl in his head, like an echo. Minutes ticked by. The man didn't move. Cole's fingers tightened on his rifle. He didn't like stalemates. The radio crackled again. Target's gone cold, thermal lost him. Cole swore under his breath. Check the fence line again. He might have doubled back. They swept the perimeter twice before Cole finally returned to the dorm. The hallway was still. When he unlocked the door, Shadow was sitting directly in front of it, eyes locked on him, as if waiting for the all-clear before letting anyone pass. The girl was perched on the bed, knees pulled up under the blanket. Did you find him? Cole closed the door behind him. No. But he was here. Her face didn't change, like she'd known the answer before he gave it. He's not going to stop, she repeated. Cole set his rifle against the wall and crouched beside Shadow, running a hand over the dog's head. Then we don't stop either. She glanced at him. You mean, you're not sending me somewhere else? Not until I know he can't follow you, Cole said. His tone left no room for doubt. For the first time, she looked at him directly, really looked, and nodded. Cole stayed in the room until she finally lay down. Shadow curled at the foot of the bed, his head resting on his paws, but his eyes stayed open, fixed on the door. Cole didn't sleep. He sat in the chair by the window, watching the night outside, every small sound sharpening his focus. Sometime around 0400, a thin layer of frost formed on the glass. Beyond it, the yard lay silent and untouched. But Cole knew better. Somewhere out there, the man was waiting. And so was he. The first sign something was wrong came just after dawn. The base was stirring, boots on gravel, voices low, the smell of coffee drifting from the mess hall, when the North Tower guard called in. Command, we've got a section of fence line near the east corner with ice damage. Looks deliberate. Cole was already halfway there before the rest of the sentence came through. Shadow trotted beside him, his breath clouding in the cold air. When they reached the spot, Cole saw it instantly. The fence had been frozen, water poured over it in the night until the links were coated in ice, brittle in the morning air. One sharp kick and it would shatter like glass. Smart, Cole muttered. Quiet way in. The guard on scene nodded grimly. Tracks lead back toward the trees, but they're light. He wasn't carrying much. Cole crouched to examine them. The prints were fresh, less than 2 hours old, and spaced far apart. Running strides. He's testing us, Cole said, standing. Seeing how close he can get before we react. Shadow sniffed the air, then lowered his head, following the tracks with intense focus. Cole tapped his radio. Command, keep eyes on the girl. Double guard at her door. Copy, came the reply. They followed the tracks 50 yards into the woods before they abruptly stopped. Cole scanned the snow, nothing ahead, no broken branches, no disturbed powder. He went up, Cole realized, spotting faint scuff marks on the trunk of a pine. The guard beside him frowned. Climbed? Why? A sharp metallic ping cut him off. Cole grabbed the guard's shoulder, yanking him back just as a thin wire snapped from the tree above, swinging down to eye level. A trap. Shadow barked sharply, his body between Cole and the danger. The bark wasn't fear, it was warning. Cole's mind was moving fast now. The man wasn't just a stalker, he was trained. He knew how to set diversions, how to test defenses without revealing his hand too soon. They backed out carefully, eyes scanning for more traps. By the time they returned to the fence line, a runner from command was waiting. It's the girl, the runner said. She's asking for you. Cole didn't waste a second. Shadow matched his pace as they jogged back to the dorm building. When he entered, the girl was sitting on the bed, the blanket wrapped around her shoulders, her face pale. He's close, she said before he could speak. Cole stopped short. You saw him? She shook her head. No. I felt him. He studied her for a long moment. She wasn't guessing, the certainty in her tone was too solid for that. Tell me exactly what you mean, Cole said. She hesitated, then looked toward Shadow. He used to have a dog. Before, she trailed off, biting her lip. Shadow smells like it. And if I can smell it, he can too. Cole processed that quickly. So he's not just tracking you by sight. She nodded slowly. He trained his dog to find people. I think he's trying to use Shadow's scent trail now. That explained the proximity, the testing of the fence. He didn't need to get close to the girl's room, just close enough to follow the dog. Cole's jaw tightened. Then we changed the trail. For the next hour, Cole and 2 guards worked a decoy plan. Shadow was walked along false paths leading to the motor pool, the supply depot, and finally out toward the south gate, anywhere but the dorms. The idea was to confuse the man long enough to secure the girl for transfer to a safer location. By midday, the snow had picked up again, covering most of the earlier tracks. Cole allowed himself a moment of relief, thinking the trail might finally be cold. It lasted less than 30 minutes. A sharp alarm sounded from the east fence. Breach alert. Cole was already moving, Shadow at his side, the girl's safety locked in his mind like a mission parameter. The radio chatter confirmed it. The intruder had slipped through a narrow cut in the frozen section before patrol could intercept. They reached the breach just as 2 guards cornered a shadowy figure near the mess hall. But before they could close in, he tossed something small into the snow. A flash. A sharp hiss. Smoke erupted, curling thick and fast. Visibility dropped to nothing. Shadow lunged, but Cole's hand shot out, gripping the harness. Not blind, buddy. We wait. The smoke cleared within 30 seconds, but the man was gone. In his place, lying in the snow, was a single black leather glove. Cole picked it up carefully, turning it over in his hand. Inside, scrawled in smudged ink, was one sentence. "You can't keep her forever." Cole stood there for a long second, the glove heavy in his hand. The inked words were a taunt, a promise, and a warning. He turned it over, scanning for anything more. The leather was worn, lined with faint impressions where fingers had gripped something tightly for long periods of time. It smelled faintly of engine oil and cold metal. Shadow's nose twitched as he leaned in to sniff it, but his lips curled in a silent snarl. Cole slipped the glove into an evidence bag and sealed it, his mind already racing ahead. "Lock it down," he told the nearest guard. "Every gate, every entrance. And triple the watch on Dorm 3. The guard nodded and sprinted toward the main gate to relay the order. Cole tapped his comm command. "We have direct contact, leaving evidence at the breach." "He's escalating." "Understood," command replied. "Recommend moving the asset." "No," Cole cut in. "Moving her now makes her vulnerable. He's watching, waiting for us to take her outside the wire. We hold here until I say otherwise." There was a brief pause before command answered. "Your call." "But if he breaches again?" "He won't get the chance," Cole said, then clicked off. He started back toward the dorms, Shadow matching his pace. Snow crunched underfoot, each step deliberate. Cole knew the man wasn't gone, he'd be somewhere just beyond their sight, testing their patience as much as their defenses. When he stepped into the dorm room, the girl was on her feet. Her eyes darted from Cole to the door, then to Shadow, who pushed past him to sit directly in front of her like a shield. "You found something," she said. Cole didn't confirm it, but he didn't deny it either. "He's getting bolder. That means he's running out of time, or he thinks we are." She glanced toward the window. "He's not scared of you." "Good," Cole said. "Fear makes people sloppy. I'd rather have him careful. It means he's thinking, and I can predict the thinker." Her gaze narrowed. "What if he's predicting you?" Cole didn't answer right away. She had a point, and the fact she'd said it made him reassess just how much she'd seen, how much she understood about this game they were playing. "I've been in worse stalemates," he said finally. "But the difference here is that I have Shadow. And he doesn't." As if on cue, the K9's head lifted, ears pricking toward the hallway. A half-second later, Cole heard it too, the sound of boots moving quickly toward their door. A guard knocked twice before opening it. "Sir, we've got something at the creek bed, just outside the east fence." "Looks like, well, you'll want to see it yourself." Cole glanced at the girl. "Stay here. Shadow stays with you." She shook her head. "No. If it's him, I need to know." Cole hesitated. Every instinct told him to leave her here, but the thought of her sitting in this room wondering what was happening could be worse. If the man was trying to lure them into the open, she might be the key to spotting something they missed. "All right," he said finally. "But you stay behind me, no matter what." The guard led them out past the east watchtower, down a narrow path flanked by frozen brush. The creek was little more than a ribbon of black water cutting through the snow, the ice along its banks cracking faintly as the current moved beneath. At the edge of the water, half buried in snow, was a small, hand-carved figure. Cole crouched beside it. The carving was crude, a dog, sitting, head tilted up. The detail was minimal, but the stance, it was unmistakable. It was Shadow. The girl's breath caught. That's him." Cole turned the carving over in his glove. There were initials burned into the base, RW. "Mean anything to you?" Cole asked, looking up at her. She shook her head slowly. "No. But he's telling us he's close." Shadow's head lifted again, eyes narrowing toward the far bank. Cole followed his gaze and caught it, the faintest flicker of movement among the trees. Back to the base, Cole said quickly, standing. Now. They moved fast, Shadow glancing back over his shoulder every few steps. Cole didn't need to ask, he knew the dog was tracking the figure, marking every movement even as they retreated. By the time they reached the gate, the man was gone again. But Cole knew this was no longer just a hunt. It was a message. The carved figure wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The carving stayed in Cole's pocket for the rest of the day, the weight of it a constant reminder that their window was closing. He didn't show it to anyone else. The fewer people who knew about it, the fewer loose ends the man could pull on. By mid-afternoon, the snow had slowed, leaving a hard crust on the drifts that crunched under every step. The wind had shifted too, coming from the east, carrying scents into the base instead of away from it. Shadow noticed first, lifting his head, nostrils flaring. Cole was in the operations room when the call came from the south tower. "We've got movement, 300 meters out, pacing the perimeter. Looks like one individual." "Armed?" Cole asked, already reaching for his rifle. "Can't tell from here. Keeps slipping in and out of cover." Cole didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way." The girl was in the corner of the ops room, sketching something in a small notepad. As he passed her, she looked up. "It's him, isn't it?" Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. Shadow was already at the door, tail stiff, body leaning forward like a drawn bowstring. They reached the south tower within minutes. The tower guard pointed into the treeline. "He's toying with us. Gets just close enough for a glimpse, then vanishes again." Cole raised his binoculars, scanning the snow beyond the fence. A flicker of movement, a dark coat, a hunched silhouette. The man stopped, head tilted slightly, like he knew exactly where Cole was standing. Then he raised his hand. Cole's stomach tightened. The hand was bare, no glove now, and in it was another small wooden carving. This one wasn't of a dog. It was of a girl. Even from here, Cole could see the crude shape of long hair, the outline of a small figure wrapped in a blanket. "Shadow," Cole murmured, lowering the binoculars. The dog was already locked on the man, body vibrating with tension. The man placed the carving gently on a tree stump, then stepped back. Slowly, deliberately, he pointed toward the base. Not at the fence, at the dorm building. Cole didn't wait to see more. "Lock the dorms. Move her to the inner compound." He and Shadow took the long way back, cutting through the supply yard to avoid open ground. The girl was standing just inside the dorm door when they arrived, her eyes wide. "He's here," she whispered. Cole nodded. "You're moving." They kept her between two guards, Shadow pressed to her side, as they crossed to the central building. It was the most secure location in the base, reinforced doors, no ground floor windows, a single guarded entrance. Once she was inside, Cole took Shadow back to the fence line. The stump where the carving had been placed was empty. Tracks led away from it, but they didn't go far. 50 meters into the woods, they stopped again, just like before. Cole turned slowly, scanning the tree trunks. That's when he saw it. High up, nailed to a branch, was a strip of fabric. Dark green. He climbed halfway up the tree to retrieve it. The material was stiff with frost, frayed at the edges. And faintly, beneath the scent of pine and snow, was the unmistakable smell of smoke. Shadow's nose twitched violently when Cole brought it down, his ears flattening. "What is it?" the tower guard asked. Cole stared at the fabric. An old uniform sleeve. "Army issue." The guard frowned. "Ours?" "No," Cole said. "Not anymore." They returned to the base with the fabric and the second carving, both sealed away. But Cole knew what they meant. The man wasn't just chasing the girl. He was sending messages to him, personal ones. This wasn't a random predator. This was someone who knew how Cole thought, how he moved. And that meant one thing. The man was ex-military. Cole didn't sleep that night. He stayed in the operations room, pacing between the wall map and the window, watching the perimeter cameras in a constant loop. Shadow lay near the door, not resting either. Every few minutes his head would lift, ears twitching at some faint sound beyond the walls. The girl was in the secure room 2 floors above, guarded by 2 armed soldiers who rotated shifts every 2 hours. Cole checked on her twice. The second time, just before dawn, he found her sitting cross-legged on the cot, sketching again. She didn't look up when he entered. "You found something else, didn't you?" Cole leaned against the wall. "Why do you say that?" "Because you're quieter," she said, still drawing. "When you don't tell me what you know, it means you think it's worse than I should hear." He didn't confirm or deny it. Instead, he walked closer, glancing at the paper. She was sketching a bridge. Not just any bridge, the old timber one over the frozen creek west of the base. "You've been there?" he asked. She finally looked at him. "It's where I hid the first time." Cole's voice was calm, but his mind was running fast. "The first time he came after you?" She nodded. "It was raining. I stayed under the bridge for 2 days before someone found me. He didn't come near it then. But now, I keep dreaming about it." Cole knew better than to dismiss that kind of instinct. If the bridge had been a safe place before, it could be exactly where the man wanted to turn the tables now. He left the room and found Shadow waiting in the hallway. "Bridge," he said simply, and the dog's ears pricked at the word. By the time Cole reached the west gate, the sun was just starting to push pale light over the snow. He and Shadow took a snowmobile, cutting across the drifts in a straight line toward the creek. The cold wind bit through his gear, but the speed kept him alert. They slowed as the dark shape of the bridge came into view through the trees. It was old, weathered wood over ice-crusted water, the beams streaked with frost. Shadow jumped off the snowmobile first, nose low, tail stiff. He moved toward the underside of the bridge without hesitation. Cole followed, crouching low as they stepped into the shadowed space beneath. The air smelled faintly of damp earth and something else, something sharper. A small blanket was tucked into one corner, half covered by drifted snow. Next to it sat a tin cup, its rim rusted. But what made Cole's chest tighten was the boot print stamped clearly in the snow beside it. "Fresh. Hours old, at most." "Shadow," Cole murmured, and the K9's head turned instantly toward the far bank. His body tensed, then surged forward, paws scattering powder as he scrambled up the slope. Cole was right behind him. At the top, the forest opened into a clearing. In the center stood the man. He wasn't wearing the heavy coat anymore. Just a dark green sweater, the same shade as the old uniform sleeve Cole had found. His hair was short, military style, but his face was half covered by a scarf. For a moment, they just stared at each other, the only sound the wind through the trees. Then the man spoke, his voice low and steady. "She doesn't belong to you." Cole's grip on his rifle tightened. "She doesn't belong to you either." The man's eyes flicked to Shadow. "He was mine once." That landed like a blow. Cole kept his stance still, but his mind was already working through the implications. "You trained him?" Cole asked. The man's gaze hardened. "I made him. You just got him after they threw me away." Shadow growled, the sound low and dangerous. The man stepped closer. "You think you're protecting her. But you're just holding her here for them to find again." Cole took a step forward of his own. "Walk away now, and you don't have to find out what happens if you don't." The man's scarf shifted just enough to reveal a smirk. "You've already lost. You just don't know it yet." And then, fast, practiced, he turned and vanished into the trees. Shadow lunged after him, but Cole's sharp command froze him in place. Chasing now would be suicide. Instead, Cole crouched in the snow where the man had been standing. There, pressed into the frozen ground, was a single photograph. It was of the girl. Taken 2 days ago. Cole stared at the photograph for several seconds, his gloved fingers tight around the edges. The snow clung to its surface in wet specks, but the image was unmistakable. The girl, standing near the fence of the base, caught mid-turn as if someone had called her name. He slipped it into an inner pocket, every instinct telling him the man had taken it from within sight of the compound. That meant he'd been closer than anyone realized. Shadow was restless, pacing the edge of the clearing, head low and nostrils flaring. Cole let him work, knowing the dog's senses were their best chance now. The canine froze suddenly, one paw lifted. His eyes locked on a patch of brush near the far side of the bridge. Cole raised his rifle and moved forward cautiously. The undergrowth was thick, brittle with ice, but parted easily under Shadow's weight as he pushed through. And there she was. Curled into herself beneath the lowest arch of the bridge, half hidden by snow and brush. Her knees were tucked to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around them. The silver thermal blanket they'd given her earlier was gone, replaced by a wool one that Cole didn't recognize. Her eyes opened when she saw them. "He said you wouldn't come." Cole crouched low, scanning the shadows around them before meeting her gaze. "You know better than to believe him." Shadow edged closer, his head lowering until his muzzle touched her shoulder. She let out a breath that was almost a sob, her fingers burying themselves in his fur. "Was he here?" Cole asked. She nodded faintly. "He told me I should go with him, that you couldn't keep me safe forever." Cole's jaw tightened. "And you didn't?" "I stayed," she whispered. "Because you told me once, if he's talking, he's not doing." "And Shadow?" Shadow wouldn't move. Cole reached for her hand. "We're going back now. But you listen to me, if he ever gets close enough to talk to you again, you yell. Doesn't matter where we are. You yell." They moved out from under the bridge slowly, Cole keeping his rifle trained on the treeline. The snow muffled their steps, but every sound beyond their little circle of movement seemed sharper, more dangerous. Halfway back to the snowmobile, Shadow stopped. His head turned sharply toward the east, ears pricked. Cole caught it too, the faint crunch of a boot on crusted snow. He spun, sighting down his rifle just in time to see the man emerge from the shadows. No scarf this time, no coat. Just that same green sweater and a look that was part challenge, part something darker. "Let her go," the man called, his voice carrying easily in the still air. Cole kept the girl behind him. "Not going to happen." The man's gaze flicked to Shadow. "You could call him, you know. He'd come. He remembers." Shadow's body was taut, but his eyes never left the man. The growl that rolled from his chest was deep, unbroken. The man took one step forward, and stopped as Cole's aim tightened. "You take another, and this ends here," Cole warned. For a long moment, they stood locked in that silent battle of will. The wind picked up, sending swirls of snow between them. Finally, the man's lips curled into a thin smile. "We'll see each other again." He turned and melted into the trees, vanishing so quickly it was as if he'd never been there. Cole didn't lower his rifle until the forest was still. Only then did he look down at the girl. "Let's go home." They reached the base without another sign of him. The gates closed behind them with a solid thud, and Cole finally allowed himself to breathe. Later, as the girl sat wrapped in a fresh blanket by the fire, Shadow stretched out at her feet, his head resting against her leg. She reached down and touched the dog's paw, her voice barely above a whisper. "You came back for me." Shadow didn't move, didn't need to. His steady presence said everything. Cole stood nearby, watching them. He knew the man would try again, maybe tomorrow, maybe weeks from now. But as long as Shadow was there, as long as they kept moving, the girl wouldn't face him alone. And Cole would be ready.